Hello everyone, welcome to this channel and welcome to this video. If you are new here, hi, my name is Courtney. I am an EPIK teacher in the Jeollabuk-do area, meaning that I teach elementary school in South Korea. And today I'm going to be doing a video all about the pros and the cons of living in South Korea, teaching here, and specifically with EPIK. So I wanted to make this video because I know a lot of people are trying to discern if EPIK is right for them or not. It's quite the rigorous process when it comes to the application and how much goes into it, even before you get to the interview section. So I know a lot of people are trying to figure out if this is really worth the effort for them. So this is just my personal experience and what I personally found to be very impactful, both the pros and the cons. Hopefully this can help aid you in deciding if EPIK is right for you or not. So I'm going to have 6 pros and 5 cons. I also just want to preface this video by saying that I would not change moving to Korea for the world. Moving here and doing EPIK has been such an incredible blessing in my life. I have absolutely loved my students here and I've loved my time here. And being very realistic, you have a lot of positives and you also have moments where you step back and go, ooh, this can be hard right now, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I absolutely loved teaching here. So even knowing these cons, it wouldn't have stopped me from coming here. And so without further ado, let's get into the video. So number 1, I love my students. I was not a previous teacher in the States, so coming here, I really wasn't sure if I was going to actually like teaching itself. It was a bit more of an experimental thing. I wanted to try out education without also having to go to the lengths of getting a different accreditation in education or a different degree or something like that. I really just wanted to try out and see if teaching was right for me. And I can say that I absolutely loved my students and teaching them. They are phenomenal. I think a beautiful thing about EPIK is that you can be placed with multiple different grades. So I teach 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, which are all in elementary school, and they have just been the highlight of my time here. And out of everything, I just absolutely love teaching them. I love walking in every day and seeing their faces and catching up with them and the limited amount of English they can speak, which obviously that's what we're working on. Honestly, if you would have asked me a year ago if I would be teaching elementary school, I would have said there's no way. If you would have asked me at any other point in my life, I would have said no way. And here I am. I absolutely love it. Of course, you're gonna have really rough classes that you're gonna have to work through, or certain students that you're really gonna have to work on that relationship with. So it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but they honestly make every single day teaching here worth it. Number 2, you get to experience a new culture. So this is pretty obvious. You are in fact moving to a different country, but this goes into all the little nuances. Everything down to the transportation, the food, the money, the traditions, obviously the language, all of these things are really different. So it's neat that you have to learn a whole new system of how to get on a bus, what the unspoken rules are in that, of a lot of silence here. The money, you're no longer spending dollars or whatever your home currency is, you're spending won. So what's 1,000 won? What's 50,000 won? What does that really equate to? Obviously the food is all different, so you get to try a lot of different tasty dishes here. Traditions like what is Chuseok versus Thanksgiving. Obviously Korean as a language, just being here, being immersed and listening to it around you, it stops being a foreign language and just starts to be another language that you begin to pick up on and that you can start integrating into your life. Obviously, some level of education and some component of learning is important when it comes to Korean, which I am definitely trying to heavily work on now. Just really unique. You get the full experience of being fully immersed in a culture and just kind of thrown into the deep end of the pool and rising to the top, but you have to learn so much along the way. And I think developmentally, that's so important and so helpful, and just helping you discover not only, who you are, but who you want to be going forward. It might change your worldview of things. I think it's very eye-opening and an experience that you can't get if you don't really move outside your comfort zone. So I think it'll help you grow as a person in whatever direction that really is. Number 3, Korea is relatively inexpensive. So if you are considering teaching abroad, but thinking about the JET program, or maybe some European countries like Spain or something like that, I will say living in Korea is relatively inexpensive. I just took a trip to Japan, and comparing it to the States, it definitely is less expensive, but comparing it to Korea, you get a lot more bang for your buck in Korea. A caveat to that is I did visit Tokyo, which is obviously a massive city in Japan, so the prices could be quite different. But I've just found things relatively inexpensive here. One of those to note is food. Honestly, going to the grocery store, you can buy something that's going to cost just as much as takeout almost. So if you're one of those people that doesn't like to cook at all, I think you'll find this helpful because your grocery bill and then your eating out bill, depending on where you go, can pretty much break even. So it's relatively inexpensive for food here, but obviously the nicer places you go, the more money you're gonna spend. Another part of that is coffee. I am a cafe girl through and through. I love spending my time there, and coffee here is just relatively inexpensive. If you're used to a $5 cup of coffee back home, which I know is expensive to spend $5 on a latte in general, but if we're being honest with ourselves, in the States, you're definitely gonna spend about that much if you're gonna get anything other than a black coffee with any kind of special twist on it. You're gonna spend around $2.50 to $3.50 for a latte. Now, I don't get any kind of add-ons and stuff here. It just makes life more complicated because you're ordering in Korean. That definitely adds up. So coffee is a lot more inexpensive here. Number 4, Korea is very technologically savvy. So if you know a lot about Korea, then you probably already know this, but if you're really just looking into Korea for the first time and you don't know anything about it, Korea is very obviously not a third world country. It's a highly developed country, and if you're worried about certain things, like I know I was concerned about Amazon because I knew Amazon wasn't a really big thing here, but there's alternatives for all of those things. So while we have Amazon and I would order everything to my doorstep, they have Coupang, which is very similar. They have the free delivery. If you do a little subscription to it, just like Amazon, you can get things next day. I also, when I was living in the UK, always did Amazon Fresh because I would have to walk 3/4 of a mile to get my food. So it's just easier to deliver, especially the heavy items, to my doorstep. Again, you have Coupang here that will deliver your groceries. If you want to order clothes from there, they'll deliver clothes, but everything down to your refrigerated items, they will bring to your door, which is really nice. They also do things like DoorDash. They're just called something different here. So don't be intimidated that maybe these names that you know of aren't necessarily in existence here. Even things like Uber, a lot of times you can take a Kakao taxi. So there's just alternatives and different names for the same services that you would get back home. Number 5, this is a great opportunity to try out education without actually having to get a degree. So I know I touched on this a little bit earlier, but I think sometimes we forget what a gift it is to be able to kind of dip our toes into the water without having to go through an accreditation process. So you do need your TEFL, which is a certificate that will take, I believe it's 120 hours or 140 hours, sometime around that. So you do need that certification, but you don't have to go through another degree's worth or really long intensive classes to be able to practice teaching here. You also have the luxury of having a co-teacher in the classroom. If there's any discipline issues, the co-teacher is there to help you with it. Sometimes you can have co-teachers that participate a lot more than other ones. It depends on who you get, but you do have a safety net. I think that's such a luxury. If you go into being a first-year teacher in the States, you're not going to have that safety net. Everything is on you. So this is a really good opportunity to try out and see if education is right for you. And number 6, you get really good benefits with EPIK teaching in Korea. So especially compared to other TEFL programs, you get things like your healthcare added on. You also get help with the visa process. You have your flights included, which is really big, both coming here and going back. Obviously, if it fits into the parameters of the budget they give you. The more schools that you teach at, the more money that you make, and you get extra money for moving in. But compared to other jobs with the same qualifications, you get a lot of benefits with EPIK. I definitely think it's worth checking out. If you are interested in definitely doing TEFL, as in teaching English as a foreign language, then I think EPIK has so many benefits that other programs don't. So just purely for that reason, it's worth looking into. So now moving into the cons, or honestly just what I would call a few drawbacks. Number 1, you don't have much time off. Now, whoa, I know you're thinking, Courtney, don't you have 26 days off? Yes, you do. 26 days is a lot, especially compared to if you're working an office job back home, then 26 days of vacation days is a lot. But also when you think to other educators, and I can really only speak for the States, but you are looking at about 9 to 12 weeks off per year. And also other Korean teachers here where we work in the school system, they get a winter vacation and they get a summer vacation. We really don't. So our vacation days are the 26th, but we don't have any other time off unless it's a national holiday, like a school founding holiday. Everything everything else is a vacation day pulled from that. So if you're thinking like back home, oh, we get Christmas break off and we get spring break or maybe a fall break, not what it's going to be like here. You're going to have the 26 days to take off, again, unless it's a national holiday, and then you spend that how you will. The reason I say that this is a con is because you can only take it off when the kids are not in school. So you can only take it off really in January and February or in July/middle of August. And something to note with that, for instance, is for me, I ended up teaching 2 winter camps this winter. So half of January, I was still continuing to teach. And one of my schools started late due to construction. So I was teaching all the way till the end of January for my second school, meaning that I couldn't take a full week off until the month of February. And the last 2 weeks of February, they recommend that you come in because teachers are doing a lot of transitioning. Really, that just left me 2 weeks in February to take a larger amount of vacation time off. So even though I have the 26 days, I'm hoping that I spend the rest of it in July and August and actually have the time outside of English camps to be able to do so. Number 2, language barriers can definitely make life more interesting and a little bit harder to navigate, both inside the classroom and life in Korea. So this is pretty obvious, but it is something that you do want to consider, that you can't be easily frustrated here because a lot of times you're the person that's the odd one out. You're the person who doesn't speak Korean. So especially working with co-teachers within the school system, probably come into a lot of situations where something isn't communicated very clearly. And that's just something that you have to work on with your co-teachers, getting to know them better, understanding their style, and hopefully throughout the year you can adapt to that. But it can be pretty difficult because, again, you're the person who doesn't speak Korean. So it's a lot of effort on your side to be able to make something work. And that's just what happens when you visit a new country and a new culture. But it's a very humbling thing and just something that takes a lot of adjusting and getting used to once you move here. Number 3, people aren't as outgoing, I think, as what you would find in the States. That's definitely a generalization, but I've noticed that people seem a little bit more drawn back here. But then when you get to know them, they're really, really nice. They're really kind. Sometimes I think it can just be intimidating, the first interaction, getting to know someone. Number 4, this is kind of an obvious with EPIK that everyone kind of has to battle with, and that is you don't know where you're going to be placed, the city or area that you actually get placed in after orientation, and the schools, if you're going to be teaching middle, high school, elementary school, and what grades within those schools, which can change throughout the year. You really have to go with the flow and be flexible and okay with wherever you are placed. I get a lot of questions about maybe my biggest advice going into EPIK, and I think for this I would say, and I can't stress this enough, you really have to be flexible and adaptable, I think, to have your best experience that you can have here. If you are dead set on having a city placement and you're here for the Korean life and you're here because what you want to do is you want to live in Seoul or you want to live in Busan, then I think you might have a bit more difficult time, because if your mindset isn't really open, you have a higher likelihood of being disappointed. So I would say that if you're doing EPIK, I would genuinely do a heart check and be like, is it okay if I get placed in a rural area? Am I willing to still have this experience and try it if it means that I'm really teaching 3rd graders when I want to teach high schoolers? Are you okay with the possibility of being placed in multiple different circumstances? If this is something that's going to bother you, then I would really contemplate and see if EPIK is the right choice for you. Now, it takes time to grow and adapt and have flexibility in life, but if this is something that your personality really doesn't mesh with, again, I would just kind of sit on that and think if this is going to be worth it for you. Number 5, this is just something I personally found when moving to South Korea, and that is that Korea is a generally very homogeneous society. Actually, out of everyone living in Korea, ethnically 96% are Korean. Now, it might make sense. You're like, 96% ethnically Korean in Korea. Yeah. But that just means 4% is left for foreigners or people without Korean descent. 4%, that can come from China, that can come from Russia, that can come from Australia, America, New Zealand. Actually, finding someone of your nationality can be pretty limited here, especially if you don't live in Seoul or you don't live in Busan. I've traveled to Seoul. I see a lot more foreigners than I do in the Jeollabuk-do area. I live in the biggest city in the Jeollabuk-do area, which isn't huge, but it is the biggest city in my province. When I walk around, if I don't see my friends that I intentionally meet with who are native teachers, I would not see a single other foreigner, which that's just kind of the fact of the matter living in Korea. It can be difficult to try and integrate into a pretty homogeneous society, but it's worth it at the same time because that's the point of getting immersed into a whole new culture. So you can have a difficult time. I get a lot of points, I get a lot of stares, I get a lot of direct questions, and some of them and most of them are really kind-hearted. Only a few of them are very rude, but most of them are really kind-hearted. It's just something that you have to adapt to if you're not used to it. These are all of the 6 pros and the 5 cons that I have for moving to South Korea. Once again, the pros are things that I've just really enjoyed here, and the cons are just something to think about and contemplate so that maybe this can help you if you're trying to make an epic decision. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you are interested in these types of videos in the future, definitely make sure and subscribe. I do a lot of day in my lives. I also do some travel vlogs that are coming up for Tokyo and just a lot of epic content because these are the types of videos I would have loved to see before moving here and making such a big commitment. So I hope that you have the absolute best day of your life, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!